thank you so much for your time. And I was there yesterday when you gave the award to Omar, and I saw that how emotional he got and how important was that. I wonder why. How do you see the importance and the impacts of such award for young leaders?
You know, this is only the second year that we give the award, but the reason that we started this project with the Democracy and Culture Foundation and the Kofi Annan Foundation was precisely to give a voice to these young people who are doing extraordinary work at the ground level,
Yeah.
but whose work is not always well known at the international level by the media, for instance. And we thought we can bridge that, and we can bring their voices up. That's one of the objectives of the award. The other objective is to help them concretely. So we give them a grant and we give them mentorship, because sometimes they're quite isolated. Sometimes they're part of organizations, but sometimes they are isolated, and they really are often persecuted.
Yes.
So giving them this award sometimes, not always,
Yeah.
but we hope can protect them a little bit.
Personally, I have seen here in Greece, in Italy, and also, of course, other parts of the world, we see that a lot of criminalization of humanitarian aid workers, especially like here in Greece and Lesbos, that some of the humanitarians that they were helping refugees, they were criminalized and they were charged with the human trafficking and on. So what are your concerns when you see this kind of situation that even it happens here in democratic countries?
So there are lots of political. There's a lot of political pressure throughout Europe against immigration, and a lot of the far right movements are gaining in prominence in free elections. So there's a lot of political pressure on the government. So I think part of the reaction that you mentioned is due to that, trying to show that they're trying to do something. Although, of course, the answer is not to criminalize the refugees or the people who help them.
Yeah.
The answer is to manage these flows in a humane way and in a way that is manageable for the receiving countries. But there is no solution for now. No government has managed the good balance at all. But obviously, the refugees are the victims, not the guilty parties.
In your opinion, so how that balance would look like?
You know, I think first of all, the answer in Europe, which is the big draw for many flows of refugees, but not the only one, because we have to remember, for instance, that in Africa, many countries host proportionally huge numbers of refugees. Countries which are low income and are very generous in hosting huge numbers of refugees. So Europe is not the only draw, but it has to be at the European level. Of course, first of all, the response has to be at the European level. It has to respect all the rights of migrants and refugees, the rest. And I'm very worried because we see an erosion of the rights of the right of asylum, for instance. We clearly see an erosion, and that is now spoken openly by politicians. But the solution has to be legal, it has to be European, and it has to respect the human rights, but it also has to take into account the political reality of Europe. So it's a very different. If I had the answer, I would be in Mrs. van der Leyen's place, in Brussels.
Just last question. The last few days we saw that we talk, especially also in Democratic Odyssey, that was 3 days assembly of people. They talked a lot about democracy is in crisis, but you also asked this question from the commissioner. So what's your response? Is democracy in crisis, or are there other issues?
The democracy is definitely in. It's not democracy as such that is in crisis. It's democratic governments that have not been able to deliver to the expectations of the citizens, that have not met the expectations of citizens. So young people are not interested in democracy. That doesn't mean that they don't believe in democracy, because we see it with this prize. We see people like Omar this year, Namatai last year. They are fighting for democracy in their countries. So young people believe in democracy. They just don't believe that the current leaders are delivering on the promises of democracy.
Which they do before the election.
Which they, of course, they promise they will do before the election.
Thank you so much,
You're
and
very
I really
welcome.
appreciate and thank you for the work that you do for supporting
course.
young people.